There are so many cameras to choose from these days. If you go onto the Wex website, or if you go onto MPB or any other retailer's website, you are going to be inundated with so much information. And not only that, if you start comparing cameras by specs on paper, you could be confused forever. And a camera isn't about specs on paper. A camera has to feel good in your hands. I've got an R6 Mark II over there, and that's a great camera. It feels really good. But I've got an X-H2 here, and that feels even better. It feels compact and snug in my hands, and I really like the feel of it. You have to be able to connect with your camera. Your camera has to be an extension of who you are in order for you to be the best when you're creating. And that's the thing, right? People don't think about the creativity all the time, especially when there's so much information online. You can easily get confused. So I wanted to share my thoughts with you about this, because I just feel like with all the information out there and thinking about how I've been confused over the years, I can just imagine how many of you who, if you are beginners, are probably confused. So today I'm going to talk about the Fujifilm X-H2 paired with the 18mm linear motor lens. But we're going to talk about that after the intro. The Fujifilm X-H2 can be purchased right now from Wex for about £1,400 as a used body 9+ grade, so almost mint, and you get a year's warranty with it. The 18mm f1.4 lens is around £650 or £700 depending on when you're looking, and that is also in grade 9+, mint condition, fully working with a year's warranty. So for around £2,100 you can buy yourself a great camera and lens. If you pair that with a CF Express Type B card like this one over here, I'm going to try it, there we go, like this one over here. This one's about 150 odd quid from Amazon, depending on whether they have a sale on, and I've just got a pretty regular SD card as well. I'm just going to show you that now. Those two are more than enough for what this camera can output. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. The Fujifilm X-H2 is a crop sensor camera, and for the same amount of money I could probably buy myself a full frame sensor camera, right? So let's just have a think about that. You can get the Canon R8, which is around £1,100 used, 9+, same condition with a year's warranty. You could probably buy a 24mm lens for about £600, right? And you're looking at around just under £2,000. So you can get a full frame setup for less than £2,000, and that's fine. And if that's what you want, then that's a great option. But just remember, the battery life on that camera isn't so great, and that lens is optically not the best. But look, there are plenty of choices out there under £2,000. Today I'm telling you why I think the X-H2 paired with the 18mm lens is the best option for you. Now, you might think the 18mm, which is a 28mm on full frame, is too wide, and that's fine. You can buy the 33mm, which is around a 50mm on full frame, or you can buy the 23mm, which is a 35mm on full frame, all for roughly the same price, and all three lenses are amazing, and I'm going to talk about them in a little while. Now let's talk about some of the internal specs of the X-H2. If you're a videographer, then you'll be pleased to know that this camera can record 8K in ProRes using F-Log2 internally directly to the CF Express Type B card. First of all, 8K footage. You're probably wondering, why do I need 8K footage? I've only just bought myself a 4K TV. My monitor on my MacBook is not 8K. The monitor that I use to pair my MacBook is not 8K, it's 1080p. My phone is, what, 2K? So why do I need 8K? Well, you might not view anything in 8K, but you can certainly crop in. So for example, if you're filming two people in an interview, you don't necessarily have to have a two-camera setup, because you can crop into one person's face when they're speaking, and then you can crop in to the other person's face when they're speaking. So 8K is definitely a bonus. Now, you don't have to record in 8K. You can record in 4K. You can record 4K 60 with no crop. That means your camera will not crop in when you're recording at 60 frames per second. And yes, I'm looking at you, the Sony a7 IV. Everything is available in ProRes or H.265 using F-Log or F-Log2. So the plethora of settings for video are more than enough for the average user. Now the 18mm f1.4 lens, which is a recent addition to the Fujifilm lens lineup, is a really nice and small compact lens. The lens weighs 370 grams, and when you pair this with the X-H2, the total weight goes to around 1,000 grams. So it's not a very heavy setup. The lens itself has an f1.4 aperture, and it's got an aperture ring that clicks like this. And when you're at f1.4, it means that the lens is open really wide, which allows a lot of light to come in. That means that you can keep your ISO down so that you don't introduce noise into your images. It also means that you can keep your shutter speed a little bit faster so that you don't introduce any motion blur in your images. Not only that, at f1.4, this lens is very, very sharp. And when you pair this with the X-H2 and its 40 megapixel sensor, you can see a lot of detail and a lot of clarity in your images. It really is a spectacular lens, and I'm going to show you some of the images that I've managed to capture with this lens and show you how well it performs in low light. Now I'm just going to start a screen record so you can see some of the images. So I've got a selection of images here, and I just want to kind of work through them and show you what I'm talking about. So here's an image of a lemon on a chopping board in the kitchen, and you can see straight away, if you look at some of the shadows in this corner here and some of the shadows here, the way the shadows transition, or the way light transitions from the highlights all the way down into the shadows, it's really nice, and it's something that your eye would probably see. And the high resolution sensor on this camera actually allows you to create that look because of the dynamic range that it captures. So if I just zoom in a little bit to the detail on this, you can see there's just plenty of detail. Now I'm not sure where the focus point was when I took this. It's quite a while ago I took this image, but you can see a lot of detail. You can also see how the colors are showing up. Look how punchy the yellows are. Look at the greens. Look how the way the browns look. Everything just looks really, really nice. This is a very pleasing image. Now, just to give you an idea, this was shot in classic chrome, and that is one of my favorite film simulations. So here is an image of my cat. If I just zoom into the face, you can see there is so much detail here, more detail than what I would need to see. So a really lovely image. And you can see once again, you got the highlights here and how they just transition naturally. There's no banding or anything and no blotchiness in the image. The way they just fall off into the shadows is just really, really lovely. And it's one of the reasons why I love this sensor so much. Here we've got another, if I just go back, that was also, now this one was captured in Reala Ace, which is a new film simulation. It's one of the latest film simulations that Fujifilm have introduced into their X processor 5 cameras, like the X-H2, the X-H2S, the XT5, the XT50, the X100-6, and I think now the XM5 as well. So this looks really, really nice. It's a color negative profile. But let's move on to the next one. Here's my cat again. Now you can see her eyes again in focus, but you could see her nose, okay, it started to fall off. So there's no focus on the nose, and that's the 1.4 aperture. If you look at the sofa in the background, it's completely blown out. The bokeh looks really, really good. If you look down here, I'm just going to zoom in, you can see how razor thin that depth of field is. This is the only part of the image that's in focus. Everything else starts to fall away. So the f1.4 not only is great for low light, but also creates this nice separation. Okay, over here, once again, you can see the separation. You can also see the way the shadows and the highlights are just blending into each other so nicely. And there we go. Look at that detail. And this is on a 40 megapixel sensor. Once again, it's just tremendous. With the lens, both this camera and this lens just produce some amazing images. Without repeating myself over and over again, you can see the detail here. Once again, this is a real extreme example of dynamic range. Look at the way the shadows just start to build in slowly and then just turn into darkness, and it just looks really, really good. Here's my Canon R6 Mark II. The focus point was here. You can see the print of the text on the dial. You can see everything here. You can see all of the details. Here again, look how razor thin that depth of field is at 1.4, but also look how sharp everything as well. Okay, here's my cat once again. I think I caught the nose here in focus as opposed to the eye, but look how nicely it looks. And these images here along the bottom, as you can see, they're all done in Acros. Acros is also one of my favorite film simulations. It just looks really, really nice. Okay, so here's me taking a selfie with the X-H2, and I've got the camera handheld. And just to give you an idea, it's 1/25th of a second. Now that's a really slow shutter speed. It's open at f1.4. The ISO is 800. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that this camera has IBIS. That means that the sensor inside the camera will shift left, right, up and down to compensate for any movement of the hand. So you can go really, really low on your shutter speed and still get a really nice and sharp image. So let's just have a look. Let's just look at my skin here. I'm sorry to show you all the details on my face, but there is plenty of details here. You can see I need a haircut. You can also see that I probably just need to get rid of some of these blackheads. But moving on from that, there is plenty of detail, and reality is just brings my skin tones out. And there you have it. You have the X-H2, which is a modern feature-packed 8K video recording, 40 megapixel sensor, articulating screen, IBIS, big battery, CF Express Type B card. You know, you can't be wanting anything more out of this camera. And then when you pair it with this fantastic lens, a very sharp lens, and this lens is perfect for resolving the 40 megapixels on this camera. You don't have to be a pro at editing your photos. You can just simply take photos, dial in all of the settings that you would want on the camera, and then use the 5 gigahertz transmission rate in this camera to send photos to your phone really, really quickly. And then straight from there, you can post them to social media. So you never, ever have to even take the memory cards out. You never have to connect them to your computer. You never have to buy any additional software. If you're a beginner or you just don't want to edit your photos, you really don't have to. I haven't done a great deal to these images on here. I've just tweaked them a little bit. Any image coming straight out of this camera is brilliant and will look really, really good on social media. But there you have it. I just wanted to share my opinions about which camera I think is great for beginners or people who are starting to think about moving into a little bit more pro work and are looking for some really good color science. Now, I'm not knocking any other camera system. There's a reason why I have the Canon R6 over there. It gives me that full frame look, and that's important for me for some of my client work. But Fujifilm just gives me a little bit more creativity. It allows me to be a little bit more creative. If I was going to go out with the family for the day, I won't be taking my Canon R6 Mark II with that big lens on it. It's just a complete photography turn off. I would take this and this lens maybe. I've got a few other lenses as well, and it just means that it inspires me to be a little bit more creative and have a bit more fun, because photography or any video work that you do or anything that you do with your camera should be fun. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning into this video. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and watch my videos. Please do take the time to leave a comment in the comment section below. I would really love to hear what camera you use, whether you found this video informative, if you think you're going to go out and buy an X-H2, or you might have a different camera and you could tell me about why you think that one's really good. If there's anything I've missed on here that I should have mentioned that was like an awesome feature that I didn't, please also comment and let me know about that. But yeah, thank you very, very much for tuning in, and until next time.